it's Breyonna. So let me just say, when I saw this palette, I literally went to the website and got it, and that is the brand new Beauty Bay Age of Opulence palette. I don't know why I want to call it just the Opulence palette, but oh, like this color story is absolutely gorgeous. It kind of reminds me of like a fall kind of palette that is a warm tone, because it just has like these beautiful like rich jewel tones in here. It has a lot of gold, and just overall it is an absolutely stunning palette. And I don't know if you get this vibe too, but it really reminds me of Princess Jasmine, and that's probably why I like it too, because I love the movie Aladdin. But we need to put this one on the eyes. So I did prime my eyes using my ABH eye primer off camera, but oh, like this color story, it is so pretty. I will say though, like further looking at it, a lot of the gold shimmers in here are near identical. Like I feel like I wouldn't need all the gold shimmers that are in here just because of that. But again, we'll find out later on if they're actually that close when applied. But I'm also going to warn you that I do want to try and use as many shades as possible in here just to get a really good feel for the palette. So the first shade I want to go in with, you know, we're going to go in with this one. This one's called Hope, and it's kind of like a tealish kind of color. I'm just living for all the jewel tones, but I'm just going to be taking this on this brush from Makeup Revolution. And I'm going to be popping it in the inner third of my crease. Ooh, that's really pigmented. Dang, that is a nice blue. I don't know if I like this brush or not, because it is kind of giving me a harsh line from the brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it to another one, and I'm just going to take this shade on this Luxie 237. Oh yeah. Like with the brush, for some reason like the bristles are so long that it just kind of makes it like weird sometimes. I don't know, I'm just kind of experimenting with that one. But let's go in with a little bit more. Honestly, I feel like this shade you would only need 2 layers to get it to look like it does in the pan. You know what I mean? Just look at how rich that is. Like, oh, like that is such a pretty color. And also for being a blue, you can see it looks really nice and even. There is no patchiness. It just looks super, super nice and smooth. Now trust the process on this because it might look a little bit funny right away, but the next shade I want to go in with is this really pretty bright purple. I don't know, like this one's just really catching my eye at the second. And this one's called Flapper. You know, the more that I do look at this palette, in some ways it kind of gives me like a Great Gatsby kind of vibe even. Like, I don't know, like I haven't really seen a color story like this. Like, I mean, I see like blues and purples, but not like this like rich jewel tone kind of vibe. But I'm just going to be taking this shade on this tiny little pinch blending brush from Morphe. This is an M456. I'm just going to be popping this. Holy crap, that is so pigmented. Oh my gosh. But I'm popping it in the outer third of my crease, and then I'm going to be blending it upwards towards my brow. But that is literally only one dip. I am going to kind of like bring it into that teal just a little bit. We're gonna finesse things here in a minute. But I am going to go in with a little bit more on my brush. And I'm also taking whatever is left of my brush and kind of like packing it onto the outer third of my lid. That's why I like using these little pinched blending brushes, because you can kind of like pack shadow down as well as buff it out. So then you don't have to go in with more brushes. Makes it so much more convenient. So I'm going to go in with a little bit more. Kind of like bring it into that teal. Again, I'm not like fully blending it right now. I'm just kind of getting the color where I want it to be, because I kind of want to use another shade here in the center, but I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm just going to go in with a little bit more on my brush. The only thing is I feel like you have to kind of like dip into this one a little bit more. Like it's really pigmented, but to get it to be like really even, I feel like I have to kind of like go in with more, even though it's like super pigmented right away. So I'm not too sure if it's like really just adhering to my eye primer, and that's why, because I feel like I don't have to build it up. It's just like I feel like I have to use more product. But I mean, just look at how pretty that is. Also, I will say the teal shade that we use called Hope, now that one didn't give me any follow, but you can kind of see this one gave me a little bit. Again, not terrible, but enough I would do my eyes first. So we kind of experienced a casualty, as you can see right here. So when I'm filming, I'm always drinking soda. Like, it's a bad habit of mine. but unfortunately the cold soda, you know, condensation, and the brush I put down, and then I went back to use it, and then unfortunately gave me this little situation. So we're just gonna fix that and just hope that it kind of goes away. So the next shade I'm going to be going in with is, you know, let's go in with this one right here called Dandy. Yeah, like the whole like vibe of this palette is definitely very like Gatsby in a way, with the names at least. But I'm just going to be taking this shade on this Morphe M433. Again, it's kind of like a bigger, like fluffy pinch blending brush. And let's hope that this gets rid of it. So I'd say right away, this shade isn't as pigmented as the other two were. But let's see how it builds up. So let's go in with a second layer. I just hope that we can get rid of that situation because it is not cute looking. Yeah, so this one's a little bit more on the buildable side. So if you're a beginner, you'll probably really enjoy that because it's just going to be a lot easier to work with. And what I'm going to do is go in with a little bit of RSVP. This kind of like bone-ish kind of shade in the palette. And I'm going to be taking this shade on a little shader brush and I'm just going to buff it right underneath my brow. Again, just trying to make those edges nice and clean. So to smoke up that outer V a little bit more, I'm just going to go in with the more like burgundy shade in the palette, and this one's called Speakeasy. And I'm going to be taking it on this Morphe M507. It's a little tiny little blending brush. And again, I'm just going to be popping this in the outer edge. Ooh, this one's applying more red than I was expecting. Let's go in with a second layer. Again, I would say that this one's a little bit more on the buildable side too. Like it doesn't look like it does in the pan right away. It's actually kind of nice that this one is a little bit more on the red side because I feel like that would just give this palette a lot more versatility, like when you really look at it, since it is very like blue and purple and like pinky purple at that. Because then you can kind of do like a reddish vibe with this one, or you could do like a bluish purple vibe with this shade right here called Velvet. Can never go wrong with versatility in a palette. But yeah, like this shade's really nice. Again, it's not giving me any harsh lines or chunkiness. It's really nice and smooth. So to help me blend the purple into the blue just a little bit better, what I'm going to do is go in with the bright kind of like royal blue in this palette, and this one's called Lavish. And I'm going to be taking it on this brush from Sigma. It's an E25. Again, this is kind of like a pinch blending brush, but I'm just going to first plop it right in between the two. And then do these little circular motions to blend it into each side. And this should help kind of give us a little bit better of a gradient fade. Again, if it's not perfect right away, don't worry about it. We'll finesse it here in a second. I am going to go in with a little bit more. Yeah, this shade kind of seems like it's a little bit more on the buildable side. Like, don't get me wrong, like the first layer, it does have pigment, but I would say you definitely have to do at least 2 layers to get it to look like it does in the pan. Because you can kind of see, like after I did that second layer, it really brought like that royal blue aspect to it. You know, I'm going to take a little bit more of the blue and kind of like finesse it more into the purple to see if it can kind of help get rid of that mistake I made. And honestly, I think it's kind of working. Again, it's really hard to fix mistakes when there's like water involved with eyeshadow, because it does like that oxidation kind of thing, and it's a little bit tricky. Now I'm just going to go in with that brush that we applied Hope with, that teal. No additional on the brush, and I'm just doing these little circular motions into the blue just to make sure we're getting a good gradient fade between the two colors. So I just cut my crease off camera, but you can kind of see like that chunky line, so I'm just going to go in with a little bit of Speakeasy on this kind of like flat shader brush from Morphe. It's kind of fluffy at the same time. It's from the Madison Beer collection. I'm just going to pack it right on that line. I'm going to go in with a little bit more. So packed down, the shade looks a lot more pigmented than it did when blended into the crease, so just keep that in mind. So if you do the pack and blend method, the shade will probably look a lot more pigmented than what it looked like when I applied it. Now I will warn you that Speakeasy shade is a little bit kind of like finicky when you pack it down, because you can see on this eye, like right in here, it isn't fully even, but on this eye, it looks way better. And again, I'm using the same brush and I waited the same amount of time for each eye, so So now let's start working on the lid, and the first shade I want to go in with is this really pretty blue shimmer shade, and this one is called Revival, and it looks extra sparkly in the pan. Now I really love Beauty Bay shimmers because they almost have like this creaminess to them while also being like super like wow and just extra sparkly. But I'm going to be taking this shade on a dry little shader brush. Ooh, that is beautiful. You see what I mean though? Like, it is just so sparkly. And it has a lot of dimension to it. Honestly, they have one of the best shimmer formulas I have ever used, hands down. Like, if you have not tried their shimmer formula, you need to. And I'm only applying it to the center of the lid. And I'm also kind of like feathering it into this outer edge just to try to fix that situation that we have going on. I mean, you can just kind of see like over time it's gotten a little bit chunkier looking. Even this side too, you can see like right in here. It's not as bad though on this side. Now I did misspeak, that shimmer that we are using is a little bit on the glittery side. It kind of has like a finely milled glitter kind of vibe to it. It's not like a chunky kind. But you can see this Speakeasy shade, I'm just not into. Like, look at how it's like popping off right here. You can see it's just getting like really chunky and weird and like dusting away when I apply the shimmer near it. So I'm going to take a little bit more of it and kind of like finesse this edge. I'm just using that brush that we applied it with in the outer V. You can see like it's fixing it, but you can still see that like little chunk right here. Which is a bummer because this shade again is very beautiful. I'm just not really into the formula. So I'm trying to figure out which shade I want to use on the rest of the lid as well as the inner corner. Because I mean, when you look at this palette, like it is a lot of gold shimmer, and you know, there isn't one that is like super light for an inner corner highlight. So what I did is I did do a swatch on the back of my hand. So this one right here, the more peachy one, is Crush, and then the one right here is called Champagne. And you see what I mean, what I was talking about earlier, where a lot of the gold shades look very similar. Like, I don't feel like I would need both of these in the same palette, even though Crush is a little bit more peachy and like rose gold. You know, we're gonna do something a little bit different than I was planning. So I'm actually going to be going in with this shade right here called Gold Digger. We're just gonna do a full jewel tone kind of vibe. I'm just going to be popping this on the rest of the lid. And again, I'm applying this shade completely dry. That is so pretty. Again, Beauty Bay shimmers are where it's at. Like, their shimmer formula is a lot better than a lot of high-end shimmers I've used. I mean, just look at how sparkly that is. And then I'm just going to take whatever's left on my brush and kind of like feather it into the blue. So I just did my face off camera, but we need to do the lower lash line because it's looking really weird right now. But I'm first just going to go in with that Speakeasy shade on one of those like little shader brushes that we used earlier with Speakeasy, and I'm just popping it in the outer like third. Honestly, I brought it halfway in on accident, but it's fine. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of Lavish on this brush from ColourPop. This is an E27, and I'm going to do a second layer as well. And this shade, out of all of them that we've used, is definitely the most buildable. And lastly, I'm just going to take that teal called Hope in the inner third, and I'm just using this little pencil brush from ColourPop. This is an E28. And now for the best part, which is the inner corner highlight, I'm just going to go in with Champagne. Honestly, I just like how it looks swatched, so that's what we're going to use. I feel like Crush would look just as cool, but I don't know. I like how the Champagne looks more in the pan. And I also just like that it has like that yellowy gold vibe. I'm just taking this dry on a little pencil brush. This is a Anastasia A14. Oh yeah, that is pretty. Again, Beauty Bay shimmers, literally the weight of my heart. Like, they're so freaking pretty, and they just have so much dimension to them. Like, if you like a really extra shimmer and you haven't tried them, please don't sleep on them. They are one of the best shimmer formulas. I kind of say, you know, after trying out this palette, I really do enjoy it. Again, like, this is one of those palettes, you have to really enjoy those rich jewel tones and gold, but if you do like those kinds of colors and you're looking for a really different kind of like fall palette that can also go into winter, I think you're gonna really enjoy this one. Like, there's something so special about this color story. Like, honestly, I've never seen anything like it before. But I will say the only shade that did give me any problems, like literally the only shade, was this Speakeasy shade right here, this kind of like matte burgundy. And again, it looks fine in the crease. It isn't the most pigmented in the crease either, but it's an okay shade. But for some odd reason, when I packed it down and even when I did my lower lash line, it just looked a little bit chunky and funky. And it's really hard to blend into a shimmer. Like, it just gets really patchy. So unfortunately, I don't like this shade out of the palette, but the other ones that we used were completely fine. However, the other mattes in here were amazing besides that one. I will say, like, this Lava shade was a little bit more on the buildable side, but again, it blended out really nice and was very easy to build up. Like, even though these shades are like really rich and a little bit on the deeper side, if you're a beginner, I don't think you're gonna struggle with the other mattes in here. Like, I think they're very easy to use, and also like they just have a really cool vibe to them. And if you like Beauty Bay's shimmer formula, these are like all of my other palettes where they are just super sparkly, they have a lot of dimension to them, and they're very easy to apply. Like, they have like this creamy almost like texture to them. They're not like a cream shadow, they just have like a buttery kind of like texture that just makes them super easy to apply. Like, again, if you haven't tried out Beauty Bay's shimmers, you need to. But again, like, looking at this color story, I feel like I wouldn't need as many gold shimmers in here. Like, I really wish that there was more like variety, maybe like a really light icy blue and maybe like a lavender or something like purplish that's a little bit on the lighter side, just for more versatility with this one. Again, it's a very beautiful color story. I just feel like it's lacking in versatility with the shimmers. Now, since I do have the Book of Magic palette from last year's Halloween limited edition collection, I just want to show you guys what they look like side by side. Now, this is Book of Magic. Again, it is discontinued, and that is one thing I hate about Beauty Bay, is that they discontinue all the really good palettes for some odd reason. I don't know why they do that, but it is super frustrating because this palette is amazing. I don't know why they would get rid of it, but this is what it looks like next to Age of Opulence. And you can see Book of Magic is a little bit on the lighter side. It has some pastels in it, and also the blues in here are more like grayish blues. And also the purples in here are a little bit on the grayer side too. Like, they just have like that lavender lilac-y kind of feel, whereas Age of Opulence, they have more of like a pinky kind of vibe. But you can see there are some differences. I would just say if you don't really reach for Book of Magic, I probably wouldn't get Age of Opulence. But if you like blues and purples and golds, I think it's a really fun one. And if you didn't get a Book of Magic, I think this is a really good alternative. Again, it's not identical, but it kind of has a similar vibe with some of the shades. But if you like the formula of Book of Magic and you're wondering how this one compares to this one, they're literally identical with the formulations. I see absolutely no difference. It's just, it kind of depends if you're going to want something this close with the color story. Again, I feel like, you know, you could easily have both in your collection. It just kind of depends on what you reach for. Ooh, I got eyeshadow on my hand, but let me know in the comments down below what you think about this look, and also let me know if you'd like to see more looks using this palette. But before you go though, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on Instagram or TikTok, it's at Breyonna as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.